Let's pray to our Father for a moment. Father, we want to thank you for this day. Just thank you for everything you've done for each and every one of us. And Father, we want to take this time coming up to look into your word and look at the goodness of you and look at truths about your word that can help all of us. In Jesus' name we all pray. Amen. Well, I guess Amy, she kind of went over what I was going to go over today. But we're going to look into some things. You know, last week I had briefly touched on the word counsel. And so today we're going to dive into it a little bit more and do some further investigation to see exactly what counsel is. So we're going to read quite a bit of scripture today. I kind of like to stay in one group of scripture, but I feel led to show you more than what I typically would. But it's going to help and benefit us all today. So get your Bibles out and your iPads and your phones. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at counsel. You know, what exactly is counsel? You know, counsel is defined as to consult, to ask, to assail. Counsel is also to give advice, opinion, or instruction. It's given upon request or otherwise for directing the judgment or conduct of another. What makes a lot of sense here is given upon request or otherwise for directing the judgment or conduct of another. And once I started looking into more meditating the word counsel, I was led to look at advice. Advice is one of the words for counsel when we look that up. So what is advice? You know, from 1828, advice is counsel. It's an opinion recommended or offered as worth to be followed. And we're going to key on to be followed. I'm going to read that again. Advice is from 1828. It's counsel, an opinion recommended or offered as worth to be followed. So if you're giving advice to someone, it should be good advice that that person should follow.
That's right.
You know, one of the things that I talk highly about, I'm sure all of you have encountered people like this. They come to you seeking advice and guidance and counsel. You give them advice, but then they don't run with it, or they don't take your advice. So it's a little annoying. So what we're trying to do is, God wants to develop our minds to receive counsel, but not just any kind of counsel. And those are the things that we're going to deal with today, is the type of counsel and advice that we should be receiving and taking hold to. Because not everyone can offer good or wise counsel. You know, I was looking at a guy online, and he was going over advice, and he was saying, well, anybody can offer good advice, but he was saying, but not anybody can offer godly counsel or godly advice. But that's what we're after. We're after godly advice or godly counsel. You know, I read a fellow online, he said, I'm going to read his quote, he said, a person can probably get a lot of good advice at the racetrack regarding what horse to bet on in the next race. But the best wise counsel that he or she might get from a mature friend is to go home and pay off your credit card debt. He said, what is often passed off as good advice, like what one might get at a racetrack, is probably too often only popular opinion. So what we're doing is we're seeking wise counsel, godly advice, because what that counsel is going to do is going to edify us. It's going to build us up. So today, I guess we're going to break this thing down into 3 parts. The first part is, what are the benefits of wise counsel? So that's number 1. We're going to look at what are the benefits of it. What am I getting from wise counsel? Number 2, how does a person receive wise counsel? Or what do you have to do to intake what someone is trying to give you that is good for you? Number 3, the effects of rejecting wise counsel. There are detrimental effects for not receiving wise counsel, wise instruction. So what I'm gonna do is, for a few minutes before I get to these three things we're gonna talk about, I want to briefly go over kind of where we're at business-wise. You guys hadn't noticed yet, I love talking about sports, particularly basketball. I love talking about business. I love talking about business. I can go on for days and days regarding business and business concepts and business aspects. But, so what we're in right now, we're geared towards general contracting, and we also do a ton of masonry work. And I've mentioned in the past, we're in this program through the government, through the SBA, the Small Business Administration. They have an 8A program. It's a contracting program. I have an interest in the 8A because I started noticing there are things out here for minorities to partake and get assistance to elevate and grow your businesses. There's stuff out here that a lot of us just don't know about. But I came up on it from researching, and that's where my interest in getting in the program came about. And so what the program is designed, it's a 9-year process, a 9-year program. During the course of the 9 years, what the SBA does is they help you get federal contracts with the government agencies. That's what their role is, to assist you, to take you to the table with these agencies to get work, to grow your business. And who it's designed for is designed for African Americans, it's designed for Asian Islander Pacific people, it's designed for Asians, other group, and then it's designed for Native Americans and Hispanics. Because we're all deemed as socially and economically disadvantaged. Which is true. And that's one of the avenues that's why I went toward it. I was geared to go that way. Because we are at a disadvantage when you put us up against businesses that have been around since the 1920s. And the buddy system, exactly. That's another idea, another thing that's going on. So I have what's called a business specialist. She works with me. We talk every couple of weeks. We talk about how my projects are going. We also talk about projects that I want to pursue. And so what she is, she's like a business agent. She's there to help me land work. And in saying all that, now we're gonna get to the good stuff. So, as Amy had mentioned earlier, there's good counsel, there's bad counsel. That bad counsel can negatively affect you if you take it, or if you accept it, or if you don't know how to fight it off. That's the key. We talk about spiritual warfare. That's exactly what it is. It's not a physical fight that we're up against. It's in the mind. And so, all I hear is a lot of negative chatter. And of course, we have quarterly meetings. I have to go and sit down and we all talk about where we're at in the process, and we talk about what projects we've landed or what projects we're working on and whatnot. You have to be able to handle negative people. You can't just run and hide from folks. You got to be around them. Because I think it's one of the things that Heidi always says. She says, those negative Nelsons and those negative Nancys, But some people are just always negative. I'm sure you guys have all encountered those type of folks. How's yours going? How are things going in the program for you? And what he'll say is, well, it ain't going too hot. I'm ready to throw in the towel. I'm done, And so what he's doing is he doesn't realize that not only is he speaking negativity on himself, but the other people in there, if they don't know how to fight those thoughts, they're receiving it and they're buying into it. They're influenced by it. And so what we have to do is we have to guard our hearts, train ourselves, so we don't take that adverse effect. And so what we're going to look at is, let's go and turn to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 15:33. It says, be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. When we went and looked at that word communication, communication is just merely companionship. Companionship is fellowship. this association and this company. You know, I don't know the relationship with God or with Christ that the other firms have, but what I do is I know my relationship that I have with God. And I know if I start believing that negative concept and that negative connotation of believing in all the negativity, well, it's gonna affect me, you know, because some of these companies, they haven't received any kind of contract, so they're ready to give it up. But I know that I can't have that mindset. You know, when I told you all last week, we walk by faith. You know, we don't walk by sight. And so I can't give in to the negativity that other people say, you know. And furthermore, I'm in business with my parents, so they can't just be believing that we're gonna grow and we're gonna prosper. I have to believe as well. You know, I don't want to struggle. I don't want them pulling this way and then me pulling this way.
That's right.
You know, our Father, throughout Scripture, He's talking about unity, being one, a oneness. So I have to be in the same mindset, and that's how we're going to get there. Amen?
Amen.
So that's where we're at today. And another thing about people, what I've noticed is some people give bad advice or bad counsel, and they don't mean to. You know, it's not like they're like, oh, let's just go and tear you down. Some people, there are people like that that do this, but not everybody. A lot of people do mean well in what they say, but they don't have the wisdom to convey the message that they need to put out there. And we see this all the time. We see this. I was just looking on Facebook yesterday. A friend of mine, one of the parents died. And of course, you know what everybody is saying, all the chatter you see on Facebook, everyone's saying, well, you know, the reason why he got called home early at 52 is because God has a work for him in heaven, his eternal work. He wanted him to start his eternal work early, you know. And they also say, well, you know what? You got to focus on the good die young. Have you guys ever heard of that? The good die young. You know, that's the reason why he's not here. You know, the Lord called him home early. God took your dad because he needed him for his work. And these are a lot of Christian people that are saying that. They're not saying these, they're saying these things that are incorrect, but they're saying them to give the person comfort. And so that's what I'm saying. It's not that people are just trying to be negative or have bad intentions, but you can only use what you know. You only use what you have. If you don't have it, then you can't give it out. So another agent, you know, she came to me recently and she said, well, we've got one project in 2 years. She said, you just got to look on the bright side. There's a lot of people that go through this 9-year program. They don't receive nothing. They don't get one contract. Or sometimes they might get their first contract in year number 8. And so she said, well, I just want you to just get confident in that. And I'm like, I ain't trying to hear that, you know. I'm putting too much work, applied, and put too much effort in to get in this program. I got to trust that it's going to work for me. Because I'm convinced if I go in this thing thinking that, oh, might happen, might not, it ain't going to happen for me. It will not happen for me. But that's based on the understanding that I have. Other people, they might say those things, it could happen. But I know for me personally, it won't. And that's what I stand on. Walking by faith. Amen? So this is where we're at. I remember Gerald last week, I called him the other day and said, man, when you got up and talked, it hit me. Y'all remember where he went at from last week? Y'all turn to 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 10. We're going to read this set of scripture. Because I called him the other day, I said, man, you said some good stuff, but I need to know exactly where you came from. Because I want to quote it Sunday. 2 Corinthians 10. I'm going to start the first verse. It says, now I, Paul, myself beseech you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ, who in presence am base among you, but being absent am bold towards you. But I beseech you that I may not be bold when I am present with that confidence, wherewith I think to be bold against some, which think of us as if we walked according to the flesh, or flesh. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. And I was thinking about what Drill was saying. It goes in line with today. You know, he defined pulling down. He said pulling down was demolishing. He also defined casting down, to destroy. And I was thinking about that. All the negative chatter that people bring to you, you can't just turn your head. You gotta cast that stuff down. You gotta pull it down. You gotta demolish it to get rid of it. You have to destroy it. And that's why I called him this past week, because it just goes with what I'm dealing with. You know, we have to be able to demolish it and get rid of it. And so now, what's happening when I meet with, you know, other companies, or when I meet with my business agent, I can feel the pull of God at what happens now as it intensifies. Because in the past, if someone else were to say, you know what, it might not happen, you know, or it might happen one day. In the past, I know I would say, you know what, I believe it's gonna happen, you know. But now what happens is I can kind of feel like a pull, a tug. I'm not just gonna say, oh, it'll happen, but I'm gonna tell you how it's gonna happen. So now, I think the last conversation I had with her, I said, well, it's gonna happen to me by faith. It might not happen for everybody else, but it's gonna happen to me because of what I believe in. And I know it kind of shocked her. She's like, what you know about faith? And then I had to tell her, you know, I know more than you think I know. So, but I mean, I can kind of feel that pull, the tug, where you're not just saying something cliche, but you're saying exactly what our Father wants us to say, and what you believe exactly. And I'm not one to just go around professing, oh, I'm this and I'm that, but I do want my lifestyle to show where I'm at and what I believe. Amen? Amen. That's the whole key about it. I shouldn't have to tell you that I'm a good person, but my lifestyle should speak for itself. Amen. And that's kind of what Jesus went over in Matthew 5. You know, he said, let your light shine before men that they can see your good works. So that's kind of what he was dealing with and coming from. So I gave you guys all this background information. So let's get to those three components I talked about. What is wise counsel? And what are the benefits of wise counsel? One of the things, when I started looking at wise counsel, it just speaks to me. It's a way to enable others to avoid making similar mistakes or poor choices that you might have made in the past. That's one of the areas that stuck out to me. You know, it's a lot of how we teach our children. If I knew that I made a mistake in this area, why wouldn't I want to advise them not to go down that same road? I don't want experience to be the best teacher for them. I don't want them to bump their noggin to learn, no, let's not do that. But if I can get to you on the front end, before you make that mistake, that's wise advice. That's wise counsel. That's the type of godly counsel that we're after. So we also know that there are many benefits to wise counsel. It's because the Bible says so. You know, that's one of my answers when I teach the little kids in the back. Sometimes kids can come up with all kinds of questions for you. If you taught little kids, you know, not teenagers, but the 5 and the 6-year-olds, they'll ask you things that, man, it might be a little difficult to answer, but my go-to is because the Bible says so. It's because the Bible says so. And if the Bible says so, then it means it's right and it's true. Because the word is true and it's life. Amen? Amen. So, wise counsel. Turn with me. Psalms 1. We're looking at the benefits of wise counsel. Psalm 1. I'm going to start in the first verse. I'm going to just read this whole chapter. It's relatively short, but it's saying a lot. It says, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. So this is where God wants us. He wants us to walk and convene and counsel with godly people. That's right. You know, to avoid the ungodly. Yeah. It says, but his delight is in the law of the Lord. In his law doeth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the shaft which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Right. So he's clearly telling us, seek wise counsel, be around wise people. Yes. Another one, Proverbs 19. Like I said, we were going to look at quite a few scriptures, but I just want to give you guys ample of information. Turn me to Proverbs 19. Proverbs 19, verse 20. It says, hear counsel and receive instruction, that thou mayest be wise in the latter end. Yes, sir. You can obtain wisdom. There are many devices in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord that shall stand. That's right. So that's another one that you can go to that would advise you to seek godly counsel. And even when I was looking at searching in my phone, in my app, just kind of looking at the word counsel. Counsel shows up a lot, and it also shows up a lot during wartime. You'll see that many of the kings, they would go and seek counsel when it comes to war, when it comes to knowing how much manpower do we need to take with us to fight. And Jesus even dealt with that. But it also, these kings would consult others on the weaponry they would need. So, you know, even kings and higher up people, they had counsel and advisors that they went to get advice and godly advice. One of the areas that shows that is Proverbs 24. Proverbs 24, I'm going to read 5 and 6. It says, a wise man is strong. Yea, a man of knowledge increases strength. For by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war, and in multitude of counselors there is safety. And that's good stuff right there. So that's our first part. We just identified what is counsel, what is wise counsel, and we looked at the benefits of it, and we saw some scriptural proof there. Our second component, I told you we were going to look at how does a person receive wise counsel. I can define it in one word: humility. If you can humble yourself, you can receive wise counsel and wise instruction. It starts with humility. You know, humility is defined as a humbleness of mind, a freedom from pride and arrogance, an act of submission, lowliness of mind. You know, being humble will allow you to receive wise counsel. But in order to receive humility, we got to go to the first step. One thing I like about Walter's teaching, and all of you all teaching through the years, is we got to go back to the basic. Yes, sir. So how do we get humble? So we know that in order to receive wise counsel, we have to humble ourselves and produce humility. But what's going to produce that humility in us? We got to go back to Psalms 111, verse 10. So turn there. It's going to be the first step. It's going to be the first step of becoming humble. It seems like the Word of God is built on something. It's like you go back and you go back to this layer and you go back to this layer and you go back to this layer. So we want to get to the root of it. We want to get to the root of how humility is produced. Psalms 111, verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever. So, in order for you to humble yourself down to receive wise counsel, you're going to first have to fear the Lord. You're going to have to reverence God our Father. You're going to have to respect him. That's where it's going to come from. If you respect him, then you can humble yourself. Now we look at the third component that comes next after humbling yourself. If you can humble yourself, so we see the fear of the Lord produces humility. Humility next is going to produce, it can also produce wisdom in you. You want to become wise, turn me to Proverbs 11. So our goal is to increase our word knowledge and grow in wisdom, become wise. So we know we fear the Lord, we'll humble ourselves, and then we can wise up. So Proverbs 11 says, when pride cometh, then, Proverbs 11 verse 2 says, when pride cometh, then cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom. So when pride cometh, then comes shame, but with the lowly is humbly, but with humility is wisdom. So that's the key to receiving wise counsel. That's how we get it. That's how we get wise counsel. We got to fear the Lord, humble ourselves, and we can get wisdom. Amen? Amen. So the last thing I want to share is part 3, the third component to this, the effects of rejecting wise counsel. It has a lot of adverse effects. I'm going to just leave you with a couple of verses here. Go over chapter, Proverbs 12. Proverbs 12, verse 15 says, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise. Let me give you another good one. Proverbs 13. This will be verse 18. Proverbs 13, verse 18. Poverty and shame shall be to him that refuseth instruction, but he that regardeth reproof shall be honored. And that's good stuff. Yeah. And then I was going to tell you, before I sat down, I wanted to, you guys know Solomon, extremely wise, lacked respect for God in his marriage, which caused him to change his heart towards his 1,700 wives and concubines, and he went after idolatry. He, one of his sons was Rehoboam, King Rehoboam, who ended up taking his place after him. And if we got time, I just want to read just a little bit from 2 Chronicles, because it's a perfect example of someone that refuses to accept wise counsel. And this is going to be one of the adverse effects to rejecting it. So what we're going to do is just go to 2 Chronicles. I just wanted to just read a little bit on King Rehoboam. 2 Chronicles 2.
For the one who rejected the old man's counsel?
He rejected the old man's counsel. That's the one. That's the one I want to look at. 2 Chronicles 10. There we go. 2 Chronicles 10, verse 1. It says, and Rehoboam went to Shechem For to Shechem were all Israel come to make him king. And it came to pass, when Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who was in Egypt, whither he had fled from the presence of Solomon the king, heard it, that Jeroboam returned out of Egypt. And they sent and called him. So Jeroboam and all Israel came and spake to Rehoboam, saying, Thy father made our yoke grievous. Now therefore ease thou somewhat the grievous servitude of thy father, and his heavy yoke that he put upon us, and we will serve thee. So you guys see what the people are asking for. They're asking to lighten up, lighten up the taxes, lighten up this heavy burden. And what we'll do in return, we'll serve you. Verse 5, and he said unto them, Come again unto me after 3 days. And the people departed. And King Rehoboam took counsel with the old men that had stood before Solomon his father, while he yet lived, saying, What counsel give ye me to return answer to this people? So these are the wise people, the counsel that counseled his dad. Verse 7, and they spake unto him, saying, If thou be kind to this people, and please them, and speak good words to them, they will be thy servants forever. But he forsook the counsel which the old men gave him, and took counsel with the young men that were brought up with him, that stood before him. And he said unto them, What advice give ye that we may return answer to this people, which have spoken to me, saying, Ease somewhat the yoke that thy father did put upon us. So now he's talking to his buddies. Verse 10, and the young men that were brought up with him spake unto him, saying, Thus shalt thou answer the people that spake unto thee, saying, Thy father made our yoke heavy, but make thou it somewhat lighter for us. Thus shalt thou say unto them, My little finger shall be thicker than my father's loins. For whereas my father put a heavy yoke upon you, I will put more to your yoke. My father chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions, or a knotted whip. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam on the 3rd day, as the king bade, saying, Come again to me on the 3rd day. And the king answered them roughly. And King Rehoboam forsook the counsel of the old men, and answered them after the advice of the young men, saying, My father made your yoke heavy, but I will add thereto. My father chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. So the king hearkened not unto the people, for the cause was of God. Y'all key in on that. So the king hearkened not unto the people, for the cause was of God, that the Lord might perform his work, which he spake by the hand of Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam the son of Nebat. So, I keep on going. And when all Israel saw that the king would not hearken unto them, the people answered the king, saying, What portion have we in David? And we have none inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to your tents, O Israel, and now David, see to thine own house. So all Israel went to their tents. But as for the children of Israel that dwelt in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them. Then King Rehoboam sent Hadoram, that was over the tribute, and the children of Israel stoned him with stones, that he died. But King Rehoboam made speed to get him up to his chariot to flee to Jerusalem. And Israel rebelled against the house of David unto this day. So King Rehoboam, he had a choice. He went to 2 sources. He had the wise counsel, he had the ungodly counsel. He chose to take the wrong advice. And if you keep reading on and keep going on, and you'll see the effects that it had. The kingdom split up, there's division with all the people. And the wise counsel that clearly had told him beforehand, if you lighten up the burden, these people are going to serve you. But he chose to take ungodly advice, and that's what happened. Exactly. And so that's why I wanted to get you guys on, just to, whatever counsel or advice you're getting, make sure you're receiving it, godly advice, godly counsel. You're getting it from the right people. Because, as I told you in the beginning, not everybody's equipped to give sound counsel.
That's right.